Okay, so I've dedicated my life to providing healthcare for people as a GP and as an academic who teaches medical students. Health for me is so much more than traditional medicine, but obviously that's where I sit in the world. It's about people being able to fulfill what they want to fulfill in their lives, to live a rich and valuable life by their own definition. So that, well, it's obviously why I'm here today, thinking about homelessness.
So I've chosen to use a set of old-fashioned weighing scales because I see that my fundamental role as a doctor with privilege is to highlight the injustices in our society and to work very hard to address the imbalance that we see.
I think that over the last 8 years I've watched austerity devastate our homeless population, and they're still in the main the population that have housing and certainly an increasing propensity towards sofa surfing and those hidden aspects of homelessness. So I think one of our mantras within the work that we do is if we can get things better and right for this population, then the whole of society gains. Because actually if we address that imbalance, then everybody benefits. And we see that through our patients and our colleagues with lived experience who bring so much to the table. And we have a very strong culture of working alongside people and potentiating voices from people who stand to gain the most from the decisions that we're making. Such amazing skill sets, such amazing vibrancy and life stories that it genuinely could be any of us. And for me, that's why the scales are so important.
So I think, coming back in my own mind to the principles that everything I do should benefit my patients and everything I do should potentially redress the inherent inequalities within our society, then, well, for me, the scales are a very powerful visual depiction of that. I think that, for me personally, I'd like to send a very strong message straight up to the decision makers at the top of the system, that they need to hold themselves to account, think about what they need to do different. We shouldn't be in the position we're in. We don't have to be here. This is a decision based on ideology and on historical views that date back centuries about the working classes and the non-working classes. And so, for me, this speaks to the heart of government, and it is exactly what I think a responsible government should be about, which is about redressing imbalance in society and helping those that have the least gain the most. And clearly we don't live in a time where we have a government that agrees necessarily with that.
But for those of us that have the power of voice, we need to continue to share. And having this in the museum, I think, will help people stop and think about some of the decisions that they are able to make or influence. And, well, it's the polarisation. And when I'm down in Westminster, for example, it's absolutely obvious why people don't necessarily understand that. Because if you're not living and breathing this every day, then it's very easy to think that it's not true, or it's not as bad as people say it is, or that there is an obvious way out of that situation that individuals are shying away from and from dealing with on their own. So from a very clinical point of view, we've been very, very active in factoring investment with healthcare, because we know our homeless population die young, they die from preventable diseases, and if we were to look at homelessness in the same way we looked at cancer, then we would have a very, very different approach to how we provided homeless services. So there are always challenges in providing healthcare in an austere environment anyway, and well, we're working with a group of patients who have been damaged by the system and don't always want to engage, and so that's an additional challenge.
So there's the people that are already homeless, and it's about preventing that and support onward recovery. And then there's the prevention element, which we also need to be focused on, which that's about knowing who's at high risk of becoming homeless and trying to change things before we even get to that point. Because it's by prevention that, well, we will eradicate some of the challenging things of our homeless population. So I think, well, the point is that it's high on our agenda. we're not letting up on it. There are challenges, we're meeting them face on, and we're listening to the experts. So the experts, the providers, our homeless population with experience, because we can't design services if we don't know they're going to benefit the people.